I bid you welcome.
Night of the Living Dead is an absolute classic. It pretty much started the zombie movie craze. But Dawn of the Dead is even better. Now, I have a bit of a confession to make. I never saw Dawn of the Dead before until preparing for this series. Yeah, I'm one of like the 5 people that had never seen this movie before. But now that I have seen it, yeah, the movie's genius. But before I go on, I want to bring on a good friend of mine to talk about this movie, Brevin from Brevin's Flicks and Games. Brevin, take it away.
When there is no more room in hell, the dead will walk the earth. Yours truly, Brevin Thompson, is back, and I want to give a big thank you to Ryan for inviting me on his channel to talk about the classic Dawn of the Dead, which was, of course, written and directed by George A. Romero, who gave us Night of the Living Dead back in 1968. And this film improves in so many ways overnight because, as much as I love Night of the Living Dead, I would definitely consider this film an improvement over the 68 classic because I'm pretty sure a lot of us love Night of the Living Dead because it's a classic and it's mostly like every October. I mean, you would see it playing on TV like every October. I mean, mostly on AMC, but when it comes to Dawn, however, it's definitely special for so many people, and personally, it's one of my favorite zombie films. Before I even watched this film, I watched the remake that was directed by Zack Snyder, which was released in the early 2000s, I believe. And I didn't watch the original until I watched it on Blu-ray sometime around my teenage years. And I watched it and I thought it was fine. But since my taste in movies has improved over the years, I've gone back to it like a number of times, and I've really come to love this film. And I think it's definitely an improvement over Night in so many ways. It changes the setting from some farmhouse to a mall, which I think is definitely one of the highlights of the film. Like, jumping from a farmhouse to a mall, I mean, I think is a pretty fun setting for a zombie film. And having like a few survivors, like having turning a mall into like basically their home because I mean they're like they make this place their shelter. I mean against like hordes of the undead, and they definitely improve on like some of the effects overnight because sure, I mean you had like a group of people who had like makeup on and that was about it really, and most of the like crew who worked with Romero on Night were mostly just friends and who knew him personally, and I love Night, like I said, but Dawn, they definitely improve on like the look of the zombies. I mean, sure, I mean it's mostly just like green or like gray makeup, but when they had Tom Savini on board, and especially when you see like the zombies just like making humans into their happy meals, as I like to call them, they the the work done on this film does not disappoint even after all of these years. Plus, this film has likable characters: Peter, Francine, Steven, and Roger. I love all of these characters, and the actors have excellent chemistry together, and how they like work together to like uh, deal with the zombies in and outside of the mall. And when it comes to the finale with these this biker gang, how everything plays out in the finale, it's action packed and it's definitely a bloody massacre, as most people would like to call it. And when it comes to the death of like uh, at least like a few of like the main characters, especially when it comes to the deaths of Roger and Steven, I mean, I was legit sad when they died. And when it comes to the moments of like uh, Steven as a zombie, how he's like the movement that he comes up with, and especially when you see him like holding like the gun on like his finger. I'm just like it. That moment is creepy, but also kind of hilarious at the same time. This is definitely the funniest, in my opinion, out of the original Living Dead trilogy. Uh, you have like the bikers just having fun with the zombies, with the like shoving like pies into like some zombies' faces, which is pretty funny. And you would see like this like one zombie for, every once in a while just like holding a gun like this, and that that gun trade on the roof right when Peter is about to like knock this motherfucker out. Instead, he just takes the rifle and just like he was holding it at the same way that he was holding the previous rifle that he was holding. That is fucking hilarious to me. So yeah, I definitely recommend checking out Dawn of the Dead. It's really fucking good. It's one of the best zombie films that you will probably check out right now. And I want to give a big thank you to Ryan for inviting me on his channel again to talk about this film. This is a classic. So thank you so much as always for watching. I'm looking forward to doing more videos really soon on either Ryan's channel or my channel, Brevin Flicks and Games. And if you want my thoughts on old or new films, of course, you know where to find me.
Please go and give Brevin a follow. I'll put his Instagram and his YouTube in the link in the description. Go check him out. But Dawn of the Dead, now that I have seen it, like I said, it is the masterpiece that everyone claims it to be. And I would argue that Dawn of the Dead is the Rosetta Stone of all zombie movies. Every piece of zombie media that I have seen after the fact, there's something that stems from Dawn of the Dead. There's some scenes in Shaun of the Dead that I'm pretty sure were lifted whole cloth from Dawn of the Dead. Now, I'm not saying that Edgar Wright is like a bad guy for doing that, but I'm just saying that there's definitely either references or outright copying going on. Especially one scene where the main character realizes that one of their party is a zombie and they have to make a very difficult choice. You'll know when you see it. Ken Foree, the pimp from The Devil's Rejects, is in the movie. He's looking really young in there. Like, holy crap, I did not expect to see Ken Foree so young. But he was my favorite part of the movie. He had the best moments, period. Tom Savini, who also did the makeup for this movie, is also in it in a brief role, but he is also awesome. And even more awesome is the makeup. The makeup in this movie is fantastic. It's realistically like believable in terms of bloodshed and violence, but contained within the more realistic world that Romero presents. And speaking of Romero, I give him all the credit in the world for doing things like as basic as possible, whether it would be money-wise or just done on purpose. His friend owned the mall that they used, or not owned the mall, but ran security for the mall that they ended up using and got Romero in the front door. And basically, he caught a lucky break being approached by super producer Dino De Laurentiis to produce the movie internationally. But Romero takes what we see in Night of the Living Dead and expands upon it, especially in the themes. The mall shoppers and the zombies thing, that is definitely the most prominent, and it's one of those things where it's subtle, so if you don't notice it, it's one of those things where once you do notice it, it's really interesting. And at the end of the day, this movie is advertised. It is one of the best zombie movies, if not the best zombie movie of all time. It is all of that, and then some, and more.